Why is the US dollar so important? It's not just America's currency, it's the world's. If Japan wants oil from Saudi Arabia, it can't use yen or rial. It must first buy US dollars, then those dollars buy the oil that powers economies everywhere. This is the petrodollar system, global oil trade done almost entirely in US dollars. It's not a law or a treaty, but a result of a clever deal made in a time of crisis. This deal gave the dollar a unique power. Everyone needs it, so it stays strong. Imagine if everyone in the world needed your tokens to buy the most vital resource. You'd be powerful. That's the US position. The world's need for oil creates endless demand for dollars. This demand keeps the dollar strong and gives the US government unique advantages. Understanding the petrodollar system is like finding a hidden key to global economics and politics. It's a story of power, politics, and the mechanics of global finance. But to understand why oil is priced in dollars, we need to go back to when the dollar was tied to something even older, gold. Before oil, gold was the anchor of the world's money. The story of the petrodollar begins with the story of gold. Let's travel back to that era. The journey starts at Bretton Woods. After World War II, world leaders met at Bretton Woods to build a stable financial system. They made the US dollar the world's main currency, but with a catch: it was backed by gold. Other currencies were fixed to the dollar, and the dollar was fixed to gold at $35 an ounce. This gold standard created trust and stability. Central banks could exchange dollars for gold, making the dollar as good as the precious metal itself. Countries held dollars as reserves, and the US sat at the center of global finance. But there was a flaw. The US had to have enough gold to back all the dollars it printed. As America spent more on wars and social programs, it printed more dollars than it had gold. Soon, there were more dollars in the world than gold in US vaults. Other countries grew nervous and started demanding gold for their dollars. The system's stability was threatened. The golden promise was cracking. The world wondered, could the US keep its word? The answer would change everything. The stage was set for a dramatic shift. The dollar's golden age was ending. What would replace it? By the late 1960s, the Bretton Woods system was falling apart. Countries like France and Germany, worried about US overspending, began exchanging dollars for gold. US gold reserves shrank rapidly, a slow-motion bank run. The US faced a choice: cut spending and risk recession, or break its promise. On August 15, 1971, President Nixon made a historic announcement. The US would no longer convert dollars to gold. The Nixon shock ended the gold standard overnight. Suddenly, the dollar was just paper, backed only by trust in the US government. Global currencies began to float, their values shifting daily. The world's financial anchor was gone. Why would countries keep using the dollar now? The US risked losing its central role in global finance. America needed a new reason for the world to demand dollars. The answer wasn't gold, it was oil. The stage was set for a new, unwritten deal. The petrodollar era was about to begin. After the Nixon shock, a new crisis hit: the 1973 oil embargo. OPEC nations, led by Saudi Arabia, stopped selling oil to the US and its allies, sending oil prices soaring. The world realized its deep dependence on Middle Eastern oil. The US saw an opportunity: solve the oil crisis and create new demand for dollars. In 1974, top US officials met secretly with Saudi leaders. The deal: America would provide military protection and aid. In return, Saudi Arabia would sell oil only in US dollars and invest its profits in US assets. Saudi Arabia agreed, and soon all OPEC nations followed. Now any country wanting oil had to buy dollars first. This was the birth of the petrodollar system. It wasn't a formal treaty, but it reshaped global finance. The dollar was no longer backed by gold, but by oil, the world's most vital resource. The US regained its financial dominance. Oil became the new anchor for the dollar. The petrodollar system was in motion. The world's energy and money were now tied to the dollar. America's quiet power grew. The rules of global trade had changed. The petrodollar system gave the US three huge advantages. First, it created constant demand for dollars. Every country needs oil, so every country needs dollars. This keeps the dollar strong and imports cheap for Americans. Second, it lets the US borrow money cheaply. Countries buy US bonds with their dollars, keeping interest rates low. The US can run deficits without the usual consequences. Third, it gives America geopolitical power. Most global transactions pass through US banks, letting the US monitor and even block financial flows. Sanctions become a powerful tool. America can cut off access to the dollar system. This exorbitant privilege cements US dominance. The petrodollar system is the engine behind it all. The world plays by rules written in Washington. America's power comes not just from armies, but from the global need for its currency. The petrodollar system has shaped the modern world, but what happens if it changes? The petrodollar deal had a second part: recycling. Oil exporters like Saudi Arabia earned more dollars than they could spend. These petrodollars flowed back to the US, mostly through buying US Treasury bonds. Here's how it works. Germany buys oil from Saudi Arabia, paying in dollars. Saudi Arabia uses some dollars, but invests the rest in US assets. The dollars Germany spent on oil end up funding the US government. This recycling keeps US interest rates low and supports American borrowing. Petrodollars also flow into US stocks, companies, and real estate, boosting the economy. The world sells America oil, then lends America the money to pay for it, and invests the profits back in the US. It's a cycle that strengthens the US financial system. America's deficits are funded by global oil money. The petrodollar recycling machine keeps the system running smoothly. This flow of capital fuels American growth. The world's oil wealth supports the US economy. It's a remarkably effective system, but can it last forever? For decades, the petrodollar system seemed unbreakable, but cracks are appearing. Countries like China and Russia want to escape the dollar's grip. They're making deals to trade oil in their own currencies, bypassing the dollar. China, the world's top oil importer, has launched oil contracts priced in yuan. If the petrodollar weakens, the US could face falling demand for dollars, a weaker currency, and higher borrowing costs. But replacing the dollar is tough. The US still has the world's largest, most trusted financial markets. No other currency offers the same safety and convenience for global trade. The euro has political issues, and China's yuan isn't fully open. For now, there's no real alternative to the dollar. The system endures, because nothing else can take its place. Yet. But the world is watching for change. The petrodollar's future is uncertain. What do you think will happen to the money that runs the world?